Now you might have a college professor that does notebook checks, but I never did. So I generally don't think that you will, and especially if you're like at a big school. You know, if you take Calc 1 at Chapel Hill, NC State, Appalachian, one of the bigger schools like UNC Charlotte, you're probably gonna have like 100 kids in that class, maybe, possibly. So, you know, you're not going to get a lot of personal attention in that class. They're definitely not going to check your notebooks there. So, rational inequalities, part B. All right, so this has the instructions built in. We're going to be doing this first problem right here. 6 over x plus 3 greater than 2 over x. And the first thing that we want to do is move everything to one side of the inequality so that the 0 is on the right. Basically, you want this to say that something is greater than 0 or less than 0, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to 0. Because the way that we do these problems is we look for positives and negatives, and we can't do that if we got 2 over x here. We don't know whether or not that means we're looking for positives or negatives. So we didn't have to do this yesterday because I didn't give you any problems where you had to do this. So this first step is new for today. Okay, so what this is going to look like for this problem is whatever is over here, right now it is positive, right? We're just going to subtract it to move it over to the other side. So it'll look like this. 6 over x plus 3, that stuff stays the same, minus 2 over x. And that will be greater than 0. Now, you cannot start doing what we were doing yesterday until you have combined this into one fraction, right? Because yesterday, everything we did, you had, one expression on top, one expression on bottom, just one fraction bar right there in the middle. It has to be that way. If you have plus or minus signs in between things, we don't know that x plus 3 is going to be, 6 over x plus 3. We don't know when that is positive or negative. We can't find zeros for that. But if we have everything where it's all combined, we know, if the numerator of this is 0, the whole thing will be 0. If the denominator of this is 0, the whole thing is undefined. We can't know that with it like this. So we've got to combine. So this is a step a lot of students don't do right here. Whenever we do these problems, they just start saying, 0 is your number that you can't have. They put that on the number line. Things fall apart. You don't get much credit at all if that's what you do on this. See, you have to move everything to one side. You have to combine them because otherwise all the other stuff just doesn't make any sense to do. So we are going to get like denominators. Right now this has a denominator of 1. So all we really have to do is put an x on the top and bottom right here for that middle fraction. So we get 6 plus 3x minus 2 over the denominator of all of these is just x greater than 0. Do not drop your denominator just like with the ones we were doing yesterday. You have to keep it there. If that was an equal sign, once we get the common denominator, we could drop the denominator, but this is not an equal sign. And so if we combine like terms there, we've got 3x plus 4 over x is greater than 0. Okay. Everybody okay here? All right. Now we have the problem looking like it looked yesterday. Right? We have one fraction. We have greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to 0. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. So now the steps are the same as what we were doing yesterday. So we're going to factor the numerator and denominator and find the zeros that go with each binomial. So we had 3x plus 4 over, what was it? Just the x, right? Was it greater than or less than? Greater than 0. Do those factor? They don't factor, right? This is sort of like a really simple one right here because there's no squares or anything. These don't factor. So we're just going to find the zeros for both of them. 3x plus 4 equals 0. So that'll be 3x equals negative 4. So x equals negative 4 thirds. And then the bottom is just x equals 0. Okay, so we've got negative 4 thirds and 0. They are going to go on our number line. And then, you can just plug straight into the original equation, or you can do the chart like we were doing yesterday. I think it looked like on homework most everybody was doing the chart. I like the chart. Okay, are we okay with putting everything on the chart? Okay. All right, so whenever you fill out this chart, right, essentially what you're doing is you're picking a number in each one of these regions and plugging it into that factor right there to see if it's positive or negative. So like, Leah, give me a number less than negative 4 thirds. Negative 2. So if I plug in negative 2 right here, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, plus 4 is negative 2. Right, so I get a negative, so I put a negative here. Okay. Then, Leah, give me a number between negative 4 thirds and 0. Okay. I think that's actually lower than 4 thirds. Negative 4 thirds would be negative 1.3 repeating. Negative 1's your easiest. The only whole number that falls there is negative 1. So that'll be your easiest thing to plug in. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Plus 4 is positive 1. All right, so that gives you a positive right there. And then you'll pick a number bigger than 0. So that could be anything, but what number bigger than 0 do you want to try? 1. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 4 is 7, also positive. And what you should see for this, Leah, like the way that I go through it a lot quicker than that each time, is notice 3x plus 4, the 0 that goes with that is negative 4 thirds. Negative 4 thirds is where we switched from negative to positive. So like once I see the switches to positive, I'm just going to put positives for the rest of it there. So that'll help you do it a little faster sometimes. But essentially what you're doing, you're picking a number from that region, you're plugging it into the value to see if you get positive or negative. So like here for this x, we're doing the same thing. A number less than negative 4 thirds, like negative 2, that would be negative because it's just the number, right? If we plug in negative 1, it would be negative there. We'd get a positive if we plug in a number bigger than 0. So once we have checked all of our factors, we are ready now to do our answer. So we just look in each column. If I have an even number of negatives, so here I've got 2, then I'm going to get a positive there. If I have an odd number of negatives, right here I just have 1, I'll get a negative here. And then obviously with just positives, you'll get a positive there. So, and these green ones here, those are our answers. That's where our whole expression is positive or negative there. So at this point, we are looking for the ones that make the inequality true. And when we say the inequality is true, you need to be looking at this expression right here once you combined everything. So I've got a greater than 0. Greater than 0 tells me I'm looking for positive numbers. And so that is this section and this section. Do I have to worry about greater than or equal to's on this one? I do not, because my question is just greater than 0. So I could do, oops, not that. Negative infinity to negative 4/3, or 0 to infinity. Or if you do it with inequalities, it would be x is less than negative 4/3, or x is greater than 0. Tomorrow, you don't have to give me both. Either one is fine, whichever one you prefer. All right. Okay, questions? All right, so let's do this one. All right, so for this problem, I don't have a less than 0 here. I've got all this stuff. So this stuff right here, which is right now is positive, I got to move it over to the other side, which means I'm going to have to subtract it. So that will look like this. 2n plus 1 over 3n plus 1 minus n minus 1 over 3n plus 1 is less than 0. Now, fortunately, these two already have common denominators, right? So I can go ahead and combine these. I don't have to multiply by anything to get common denominators. So this will be 2n plus 1. Be really careful here. What have I got to do with that negative? It's got to be distributed to both the n and the negative 1. So I'll have minus n plus 1. And since they have the same denominators, we just write that denominator one time. This is less than 0. So we'll combine our like terms, and we'll get n plus 2 over 3n plus 1. Okay, everybody okay here? All right, now it's the same as what we were doing last night. We need our zeros from the numerator and the denominator. Bailey, what will we get as our zeros? What value would give us a 0 if we plugged it into that numerator? Negative 2, so n equals negative 2 is one of our zeros. What about in the denominator? Negative 1/3. Perfect. And that second one's a little bit tougher because you're doing 3n plus 1 is equal to 0. So you move that 1 over, get 3n equals negative 1 divided by 3. That's how we get that one. So we're going to put these two on our number line. Negative 2, negative 1/3. My factors go over here on the side. N plus 2, 3n plus 1, and then I'm going to make a line for my answer. Okay, all right here. All right, Carly, if we look at that first line, if I pick a number less than negative 2 and plug it in, will I get a positive or a negative here? Good. What about a number between negative 2 and negative 1/3? Get a positive there. And what about a number bigger than negative 1/3? Positive here. Wonderful. Morgan, what do the positives and negatives look like for that second line?
I got negative, and then positive.
Perfect. Okay, and we're doing that same thing we were doing last time. We're plugging in those numbers to check, but you can also notice like this one switches at negative 2, this one switches at negative 1/3, so it's a little bit, you can do it a little bit more quickly. So Valeria, for our answer line, what should we have? What will we get on the chart first?
I'm sorry. Plus, positive, negative.
Positive, negative, positive. We are looking for less than 0, so that's negative. So what is our answer again, Valeria?
Negative 2 and negative 1/3.
And brackets or parentheses? Parentheses. Or we could say negative 2 less than x less than negative 1/3. Okay, questions here? All right. Let's try another one. All right, so for this one, we need to move everything to one side. It will look like this: 3 over x minus 3 minus 2 over x plus 2 less than or equal to 0. And Miles, what are we going to have to use for the common denominator here?
X minus 3 times x plus 2.
Good. So this first one needs an x plus 2 in top and bottom. And the second one needs an x minus 3 in top and bottom. So that will look like this: 3x plus 6. Be careful here. You got this minus. It goes with that 2 whenever you distribute, right? So it's going to be minus 2x plus 6. And then you have to write your denominator, x minus 3, x plus 2. And so we will get x plus 12 over x minus 3, x plus 2, less than or equal to 0. Okay. Questions so far? All right, Zena, now we need to look for our zeros. What's going to give us a 0 in the top? What number, if we plugged it in, would give us a 0 in the top? Okay, for these, what you're going to do is you're just going to take whatever you've got there, x plus 12, and set it equal to 0. And then you're going to solve that, so you will subtract 12 from both sides, so x will equal negative 12. All right, so we'll get an x equals negative 12 from the top. If we look at the bottom, Zena, x minus 3, what would give me a 0 there? 3. Good, so we'll get x equals 3. And then for the x plus 2, negative 2. Perfect. So we got negative 12, 3, and negative 2. Those are going to go on our number line. Need our negative 12 first. Negative 2 and positive 3. And our factors, x plus 12, x minus 3, x plus 2. They go on the side. And then I'm going to put a space for my answer. Okay, Owen, for that first line, the x plus 12, what do our positives and negatives look like? Negative and the rest positive, I agree. All right, Mallory, what about the next line, the x minus 3?
I got 3 negatives and a positive.
Good, 3 negatives and then a positive. And Luke, what about the x plus 2 line?
I did it wrong.
All right, so if we plug in a number below negative 12, like negative 13, we'll get a negative there. What about a number between negative 12 and negative 2? Negative, negative, and then we'll get positive, positive. Very good. So, Lucian, what does our answer line look like? What do our signs look like on that line? Good. And Sophie, what are our answers for this one? It's the positive and the negatives. Negatives, right? Because we are less than or equal to 0, which tells us negative. So we're looking at this section right here and this section right here. Macy, how would we write it? Okay. Good. Good. So you could start off with them with brackets, but both of those numbers come from the denominator, so they cannot equal those values, so you change them back to parentheses. So this would be our answer, or it could be written this way: x is less than or equal to negative 12, or negative 2. You probably forgot to distribute your negative.
Well, I distributed it on the
2, but not the negative 3. Yeah. And that is the number one thing that students would do wrong on this problem. Well, students that knew what they were doing would still mess it up because of that. Those negatives you got to be so careful with.
Something I messed up on, but I almost got it right.
Yeah. And tomorrow, something like that, if you do everything else right, it's probably only going to cost you 2 or 3 points. So,
I got most of the table, right?
Right. Yeah. Just really that top line is different. Okay, questions? All right, let me see if I have another one of those. Do we need to do another one? Yes, we do. We do need to do this one. I want us to see this one. Alright, so we got x minus 3 over 4 minus x, less than or equal to 5 minus x over x. So, I want you to see this one, because things are going to be a little bit, not terribly, but a little bit different when we got that 4 minus x instead of x minus 4 on this. So, we need to move everything to one side. So, we will have x minus 3 over 4 minus x. Minus 5 minus x over x. Also, let me warn you about this, because this is, now, like, the negative, not distributing negative is the number one thing students who know what they're doing are going to do wrong. If you don't know what you're doing, here's what I see students do a lot. They start doing this, so don't write this down, it's wrong. X equals 3, x equals 4, x equals 5, x equals 0. They start putting x minus 3, 4 minus x, 5 minus x, x on the chart. Okay? Why can you not do that? You don't have common denominators. You have not combined these yet. They have to be combined before you can start doing that. Okay? So watch out. Do not start doing your zeros until you have it all combined as one fraction. And to do that, you need common denominators. So, here, this first one we need to multiply by x on top and bottom. The second one, we need to multiply that by 4 minus x on top and bottom. You can, but there's nothing that matches it on top. And for these, even if they did match, they can't cancel, because we can't cancel anything out. Even if we have a 4 minus x and a 4 minus x, we can't cancel them out. So it's not really, you're not at an advantage to do that here. So this is going to give us x squared minus 3x. I'm going to leave this minus here and put me some parentheses, because you need to be careful. And don't forget to distribute that negative. So you're doing 5 times 4, which is 20. Then you'll do minus 5x minus 4x plus x squared. If you want to shortcut that, where you go ahead and combine those middle two, that's fine. This is less than or equal to 0. And then this negative needs to be distributed to everything here. So I'm just going to write, I'm going to do that in red pen. So this is negative, this is positive, this is positive, this is negative. That way we can go ahead and combine like terms. So you have a positive x squared here, but you got a negative x squared here. So those cancel each other out. Yes. Well, actually, it doesn't matter. You could put that negative 5x and the negative 4x together first, and then distribute, or you can go ahead and distribute either way. It's fine. And then we've got a negative 3x. I was just trying to avoid writing it down again, so I didn't combine like terms. because you had a positive x squared right here, and then once you distribute that negative, this is a negative x squared, so those cancel each other out. And then we got a negative 3x, a positive 5x, and a positive 4x, so that's 9 minus 3 will give us 6x. And then we just have that minus 20 right there. You can. It's not going to change a lot if you do. So it's sort of optional to do that. I would probably, unless the greatest common factor has a variable, I don't usually take it out. It's just easier to leave it as it is, but you could. Because if I multiply it back, I just have to factor it again to find the zeros. Yeah, so you want to leave it factored. Okay, so now at this point, we need zeros. So in the bottom, they're a little easier to find. We got x equals 0. And then if you got 4 minus x, that's just going to be x equals 4. But the 6x minus 20, and we set it equal to 0, that's going to be 6x equals 20. And we got to divide by 6. 20 divided by 6 is going to be a fraction. It's going to be 10 thirds if we reduce it. So x equals 10 thirds. Okay. Feel okay here? Oh, 10 thirds. Is it between 0 and 4 or is it bigger than 4?
It's bigger than 4. No,
Are you sure?
4.3. It's not bigger than 4.
It's not bigger than 4. It's like 3 and a third, so it's between 0 and 4. But that makes a big difference. If you put your numbers out of order on your number line, it is really going to mess up your chart. So 0, 10 thirds, and 4. And our factors are 6x minus 20, x, and 4 minus x, and then I'll have a line for my answer. Okay, so for the 6x minus 20, Joshua, what will our signs look like for that row? Good. Good. So like this is 3.3 repeating. So like 3.5 is something we could plug in. So 6 times 3.5 minus 20. 6 times 3 is 18. Half of 6 is 3, so that'd be 21 minus 20, so we should get a positive here. Also, the 0 for this is 10 over 3, so that's where we're going to see it switch for that. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Jeremy, what do the signs look like for the next row? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Lily, what do the signs look like for that third row? Very good. This has not happened to us really yet, where we started with positives, right? You got to be careful, and this is one reason I wanted us to do this problem. Think about what you're doing there, because even though we're not writing it, it most of the time starts off negative, switches to positive. But for this one, if I plug in a number below 0, like -1, if I do 4 minus -1, that becomes 4 plus 1, which is +5, right? If I pick a number between 0 and 10/3, like 1, that is 4 minus 1, which is positive there. If I pick a number between 10/3 and 4, like 3.5, right? 4 minus 3.5, still positive. And then finally, when you get over here, like picking a number bigger than 4, 4 minus 5, that would start to give you negatives there. You're going to see this when your factor is sort of backwards where the x is not first. You'll see that happen. So watch out for those. Okay, so Amanda, what would our bottom line, our answer line look like for this? Good. So we get positive, negative, positive, negative. And Kayla, which ones are our answers? The negatives. So we're doing this section and this section. So that is going to look like this from 0 to 10/3 and 4 to infinity. But I just did brackets for everything. What numbers cannot equal 0? 0 and 4, because their zeros came from the denominator, right? So I need to go back. I'm going to just erase that bracket right there with the 0 and the other one with the 4 and change those on back to parentheses there. So the only one with the bracket should be the 10/3, or it could be written like this: 0 is less than x less than or equal to 10/3, or x is greater than 4. Okay, questions? Let's see. I think we need to, guys. I think we need to do this. I know. I think we need to, though. Look at it. Doesn't that make some of you want to shudder a little bit when you see it? Let's do this one. Let's do this one. Oh, wait. I'll shave a couple off of the homework. How about that?
Lydia said that's great.
That's acceptable.
Oh, you would only do 5.
We'll do it together. I mean, if you want to work ahead of me. I don't ever mind if you work ahead of me. I mean, but if you're working ahead of me, you better feel pretty confident. Not like, oh, I messed the whole thing up. Miss Hyatt, can you do that one again for me? I can't do that, but. All right, so everything to one side. That's going to give us 2x over x minus 5 plus 3 minus 4x plus 1 over x squared minus 6x plus 5, all this greater than 0. So this denominator right here does factor into x minus 5, x minus 1. So we need x minus 5, x minus 1 to be our common denominator. The first fraction needs an x minus 1. The second fraction needs both x minus 5 and x minus 1. And the last one, what does it need? Nothing. We leave it alone. And the 0, we're going to leave it alone. Okay, questions. All right, we are going to distribute 2x squared minus 2x plus, careful here, let's just leave this 3 for right now, and we're going to multiply the 5 minus x times the x minus 1 together. So that'll be x squared minus 1 minus 5, which will give us minus 6x plus 5. And then, be careful right here. You got minus, but that 4x minus, or 4x plus 1, you've got to distribute that negative to it. So you need to be really careful with that. So all of this stuff, which is very complicated, is over x minus 5, x minus 1, there. And we definitely have got to simplify some here. So, let's distribute the stuff that needs distributing. 2x squared minus 2x plus 3x squared minus 18x plus 15 minus 4x minus 1 over x minus 5, x minus 1. This is greater than 0. So we're going to have 5x squared minus, so that'll be 24x plus 14. Look at that factors. X minus 5, x minus 1, and 0. Oh, please tell me it factors. Two here, 7 here. Oh, well, we can try it. That'll give me negative 14 and negative 2. That does not work. $14 and 1 won't work. What if we switch to 2 and 7? There's chances of that. I don't think it factors. Let me check it with my advanced calculator here. Oh. I'm starting to regret doing this problem. I don't think it factors either. Ooh. Ugh. Ugh. It does not factor. I'm regretting this. Oh, we can do it. We're not giving up. Alright. So, we're not giving up. There's no going back now. There's no going back. Alright. Zeros from the bottom. They're easy. X equals 5. X equals 1. This is more like bonus material. Now, you may have something like this and you get to this point and it does factor. But quadratic formula, that's more like bonus material. So the only way we can figure out y equals 0 here is quadratic formula. So x equals 24 plus or minus square root 24 squared minus 4 times 5 times 14 all over 2 times 5. And if I do give you something like this, I will give you a calculator for it. So if you don't have your calculator, I'll do this part for you. 24 squared minus 4 times 5 times 14. This is 24 plus or minus square root of 296 over 10. Really, honestly, if this happens, we want decimals instead of quadratic equations, right? Like we want decimals instead of radicals for this if this happens to you. So I'm just going to use the calculator to give me a decimal. So if I do 24 plus the square root of 296 divided by 10, That's going to be 4.120. I'm just going to round to 3 places. And if I do 24 minus the square root of 296 divided by 10, that gives me 0.680. Favorite number? 0.680. What a coincidence. Okay, so I just did 24 plus the square root of 296. Hit enter, divide by 10. Yeah, and then 24 minus square root of 296. Hit enter, divide by 10 here. So we put this on number line. We got 680 would be first. Then we would have 1. Then we would have the 4.120, and then we would have the 5. Our factors are going to be 5x squared minus 24x plus 14, x minus 5, x minus 1, and then the answer. Okay, I promise I won't give this to you without a calculator. I won't give this to you as a real question anyway. But you know, I encourage you guys to go above and beyond. Let's do these bottom 2 lines first, and then we'll worry about that top line. So this one, we're going to have negative, 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 negative. It's going to switch to positive at the 5. And this one will have negative, negative. It's going to switch to positive at the 1. Right? That's like we've been doing. This one, I feel less certain of what's going to happen here, so we're going to have to actually plug in some numbers. If I plugged in 0, that's the number below 0.680, what would I get? 14, so that'd be positive. A number between 0.680 and 1, we might 0.75. So if we do 5 times 0.75 squared minus 24 times 0.75 plus 14, I'm getting negative 1.1875, so that's negative. If I pick a number between 1 and 4.120, yeah, I would just do like 2. 5 times 2 squared minus 24 times 2 plus 14. Oh, I did that wrong. 5 times 2 squared minus 24 times 2 plus 14. I'm also getting negative here. I think it's going to switch to positive right here. If you did 4.5, 5 times 4.5 squared minus 24 times 4.5 plus 14, that's positive. And then 6 is also going to be positive. There. Whew. All right, we're almost there. This last part's not any worse than the other problems. All right, answer line, I'm going to have a positive here, negative, positive, negative, positive. Which ones are my answers, the positives or the negatives? Positives here. And thankfully, I don't even have to think about the or equal to, so negative infinity to 0.680, 1 to 4.120, and 5 to infinity. Okay, as far as seeing one that won't factor, that will not happen on the main part of the test for you guys, or quiz for you guys tomorrow, but you'll...
So